Hey everyone, welcome to Go Live, a Saturday evening talk show brought to you by GameOnDaily by your host Gaz, myself, and Asa Walker, co-founders of GameOnDaily, and we have an incredible show for you today. We're honored to be joined by not just one but two great developers. Before I go into introducing them, let me quickly introduce co-host Asa. Asa, how are you doing, sir? Are you ready to jump into the source?
Always ready. Been looking forward to this one. Nice to talk to people that are getting their hands dirty with the games that we like to play. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And thank you guys in chat for joining us. Hit that like button, smash it out, and share it out. We're going to get into the topic soon. But remember, this is your show as much as it is ours. So feel free to ask appropriate questions, and we will try our best to read them out to the two gents. Both gents are called Thomas, so it's going to be really hard. So I'm going to really pronounce the Tomas in Tomas Sala, and Thomas is the gent on the right, I don't know, or at the bottom of your screen from Stellar Warfare. So let me introduce
Yeah, you can use Stellar as well, by the way.
Stella.
Maybe that's easier. I don't know.
Let's see if anyone gets confused. Hopefully, no one does. But I'll try my best to make sure it's clear. First and foremost, thank you so much, the developer behind the Falconeer and with the incredible hairstyle, Tomas Sala. How are you doing? How are you doing, Thomas? Are you good?
I'm fuzzy. Oh, yeah, now it's messed up. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, we really can't wait to get into the topics with you. Thomas, also, we've been trying to make this work for a very, very long time. We finally made it happen. Thank you so much for joining us. And how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for coming on. We're going to jump into the questions really quick, guys, but very, very quick plug into GameOnDaily. GameOnDaily.com is the site that empowers content creators, whether you're an indie game developer, whether you're a journalist, whether you're a streamer. We give you the tools to get your content out there. Check out GameOnDaily.com. And yeah, I'm sure you will love it. But yeah, let me just get into the topic. So this week, we've obviously got two game developers on here, and it's really going to be a lot of fun to get their insight, particularly as there are indie developers working on titles. There have been some also developments in the industry, and not only are we going to get the gentleman's experience with their games, but also their takes on what's happening in the industry. Tomas Sala, you are the gentleman behind the Falconeer, which is a great game. Thank you so much for joining us. And I think one thing we do when we invite people onto the show is just to get their experience in the field. You're an indie developer. You've got your game out there. It's been released.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how that experience has been?
Let me say, I prefer making games to releasing games because can I swear?
Yes, you can.
Holy shit! It's like riding a roller coaster with someone jackhammering your face. It's because it's good, it's bad. People love it, people hate it. It's all directions, and then you have all the stress because you can see, there's bugs and stuff. Because always something goes wrong, so you're wound up. I think I was wound up weeks before it launched. Tight as a bun. So and someone on Twitter, another developer said it's going to take you about a month for you to calm down and then even look at your game again and sort of love what you made. Because initially, it's a roll. It's basically, it's weird. And everybody has an opinion on something that's been yours for years and years and years. And internally you go, get your dirty hands off of my, but you gotta let it go. That's it.
When you're saying people have a view on your thing, are you talking about post-release that people have had their hands on?
Yeah, well, reviews and people. I actually enjoy communicating with people that play the game the most. That is always the best. Even if they don't like it or something's wrong, or just helping someone figure it out. And reviews themselves, well, that's always a mixed bag because some will love it, some won't love it, especially if you're doing something quite strange and different, or something goes back to a really old genre that is not common anymore. You get the weirdest replies, but on the whole, reception's been really positive, so I can't complain. And there's been lovely things written. And you in the end, there's always critique that is valid, and you should listen to. You pick it up, you digest it, you analyze it, and you get back to work and you fix it. So we've been doing a patch every week the first 3 weeks after release. So
Yeah.
major stuff balancing. There were some difficulty issues, fixed that. And next week we're releasing the first, me and the publisher, the first big free content update,
Oh, yeah.
including an AI overhaul for the combat. So it's a busy time. I think that's it's only the beginning. So
How long have you been working on it?
it's difficult because I had a failed project that I sort of half abandoned that sort of went into the Falconeer reused stuff. So let's say 4 years ish. But
4 years.
the earliest this art style I started 7 years ago. So some of the assets are actually 7 years old. So it's a long fucking time.
Yeah. But generally, you'd sum up your experience as being positive.
Oh yeah. Well, I've been incredibly lucky. So it's an official Xbox Series X and S launch title. It's gone out there. You can walk into a store and they might have it as a boxed edition. You go out in the US to Walmart and there's the Falconeer. That is bizarre. It's covered by some of the major sites. Eurogamer recommended, which is a site I read a lot, which I look up to. PC Gamer gave it a 78, which I made it with one person. That's insane nowadays with how critical sites can be, which is actually the same score as Cyberpunk, which is how funny is that? Their worst, my best. Which I don't think is a fair comparison ever, but I thought it was fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm glad to hear that. Thomas, how about yourself? You've been, your game isn't out yet, but you are a lone dev working on the game. How long have you been working on the game?
I've been working on it for 2.5 years now. I started off working on it when I still had a full-time job, so I was doing it in the evenings, just trying to get one feature or one thing on the to-do list implemented every evening, get some steady progression going. But yeah, 2.5 years, and after a while I started doing this full-time when the Patreon got a little bit bigger. So now I try to spend as much time as I can on it.
So how would you sum up your experience working on the game so far, particularly now that you've transitioned into it full-time? This is being your baby now.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy, I'd say, because there's so many things that there's so many elements that you have to take care of, especially when you're doing it full time, but you can't really sustain it yet. So you have to do a lot of marketing on the site as well. And just promoting it and getting the wish list amounts and all that stuff as high as you want it to be. It's a lot of extra stuff next to the actual game development. So that takes up a lot of time, and I would wish that wasn't the case, but it comes in waves, I guess. And now I just try to work as much as I can on the game again, which I enjoy most. Just tweaking the game, making it look better, trying to polish graphics and gameplay, and make it as close to a AA or AAA title as I can possibly make it.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the problem that you're talking about not being able to devote time to develop the game is probably an indie problem as well, because you're a one-man band. You can't palm off the marketing to someone else as much as you'd love to.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's a business, sort of. So you have to make the game, you have to do the marketing. A game requires art, it requires programming. And in bigger companies, all those things are separate roles. You have someone for marketing, you have multiple programmers, multiple artists, specific artists for the UI, network optimization programmers. It's just, they have a lot more expertise among a lot of different people. And if you have to do everything yourself, then it's basically doing the work of 5 people, but you can't do that. So you have to prioritize. You have to look at, what's most essential for making this game a success.
Yeah.
And marketing is a part of it. So I try to do that for like an hour and a half each week. Yeah, it's
Well,
just
2 hours in this case because it's my Dragon. Sorry.
yeah.
I cut into your development time. But I want to get into the specifics of your game in a bit as well, because I think our viewers would be really interested in seeing that. But before we go into that, Tomas Sala, for those that haven't played the Falconeer yet, what can you tell our viewers what the game is about?
It is let's say, well, it's a lot of it's a jumble of things thrown together and then shaken.
Yeah.
So it is in at its simplest level, it's an homage to sort of narrative air combat games from the late 90s, like or early 2000, like Crimson Skies,
Yeah.
World War One, World War Two style slow air combat with fixed guns. But now on the back of a giant falcon. So it's basically dogfighting, and it does so in an open world with an epic story and everything. It's sort of fantasy themed. Well, the giant bird gives that away. It's also an art game. It's a very personal expression of trying to get out of an unhealthy situation, etc. So it's all those things shaken together and roughly made into a game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's for people. If you want the closest comparison, is somewhere. It's the nicest compliments gives people that really reminds them of Crimson Skies. So if you're a gamer, you remember that type of game. It is a lot like that. The controls and mechanics are really similar to Crimson Skies, and that genre died. I
Yeah,
think
unfortunately.
quickly after it. I guess because it's really inaccessible. Because it is an acquired taste. It's always been an acquired taste. Not everybody enjoys.
Because the controls, maybe? Why do you think it's an acquired taste?
It is. I think mostly people are. So you get people who get it, who don't get it. So I was at Game Kings yesterday. The same. They said, "Well," and then someone who's into military flight sim just picks up the controller and gets the game completely.
Yeah.
But if you're mostly used to first-person shooters or something like God of War, where the controls are really intuitive and you've got a lot of freedom to do stuff, and the reticule is really snappy. That is the opposite of what an air combat game, this type of lumbering air combat is. It's got fixed guns, and trying to get onto target is the actual gameplay. If you're used to the FPS, that's so it is an acquired taste. It's a genre, but it's once you get in it, it's a sort of a control scheme that it takes a while for you to get used to. Unless you've played these games in the past, and then suddenly it goes snap, and you're smoothly flying about shooting stuff. Or you're supposed to hope to. So it's that it's an air combat game, and instead of Mustangs and Fokkers, it's got giant birds, dragons, and stuff.
Yeah, the Falconeer has a quite unique setting, and I was kind of intrigued to ask where you came up with the idea. You are from Amsterdam. Would it be wrong for me to suggest that mushrooms and marijuana played a big role in that?
No, I have kids now, so but let's say some drugs might have been involved in the past. On the whole, no, well, it's a long story, so we'll slowly get into it later. But it's a setting that I've slowly developed, which is very close to my heart, which is about quite dark themes. And it just combines everything I love, basically. So I love flying games. I love that dogfighting feel, trying to get behind somebody. I love fantasy. I love science fiction. I don't like. I do like to play, but I'm not a creator that makes like how do you call it, Warhammer. Well, I love Warhammer, but Warcraft or D&D type. Elfwin the wizard and his staff and rogues, and so it's a lot more hard fantasy, hard sci-fi, and it's I like sailing ships and stuff like that. So it's an ocean world, and I like making landscapes. So it's filled with quite evocative landscapes. Most people think it's really weird. So it's some people go, I don't understand it. I don't want to understand it. It can be, how do you call it? Pretentious in some places. other people's really dig it. So it's different. I like doing things to be original, and it's an original setting.
Would you say that is its standout feature? What do you think, the Falconeer's standout feature? If
I
I was
think
gonna...
being a visual artist by trade, I think the world design and just the entire world, because it is about the history and the conflict of the world. It's not about the individuals in it. I think that is its standout feature. It seems to, if I look at the stats of the games, 80% of the people don't play the campaign. They just fly around, discover the lore, and do some side missions and stuff, which was a huge surprise to me because I was during there. So it's people enjoy exploring the world most, and that is all right with me. So even the next content update that's coming next week is mostly focused on exploration and just making that better and more diverse. I think that's a standout feature. Like I said, the combat is something I love. It's it's that slow dog fighting. So the people into that are raving about it. People not into that are going, "Why is this such a clunky flying? Why can't it be like every other game?" But yeah, I had my reasons to do it like that. And some people really go, "Ah, you're bringing back the genre," and then I look at, no, I don't think this is ever coming back. It's
No,
so
but
inaccessible. People are so not used to having games that are, require how do you call it? That are an acquired taste. Everything has to be sort of for
mainstream.
everybody.
For everyone.
Everybody has to, if you pick up Hades or something great, it's actually, these are games anybody, if you have any gameplay experience, you can play. But if you pick up something like a flight sim, the entire flight genre, there's always only a small people that play War Thunder or any of the militarized flight sims. So it's always going to be, and then say, well, let's do that with an epic fantasy world, an epic fantasy storyline. It's never going to make financial sense. You always want something like having a character walk around, a third-person camera and some slashing and hacking, because everybody gets that. That's enjoyable to the most amount of people. So if you're going to spend that, so it's a one-off. I don't think we'll see anything in this genre. It's not reviving it, but
which actually kind of is a problem that Thomas of Stellar Warfare. Do you think, because Stellar Warfare is an RTS, do you think that also has that challenge of having a very niche kind of appeal, maybe, or with core gamers?
Yeah, in a way. I mean, the RTS genre has been dying out for the last, I don't know, 7, 8 years or something. People are used to, like Thomas said, like more easily accessible games. And the RTS games require a lot of, I would say, thinking and planning and strategizing, and it's not super casual. It's like you have to really dig into it, learn about the different types of ships, learn about the different types of weapons. You're basically mixing, building up an economy with fleet design and even using your units tactically, approaching the enemy base tactically. There's just a lot of elements, and some people who really like RTS games usually stick to RTS games, like Supreme Commander Fortress Alliance, for instance. A lot of people still play that. I still play that a lot. So yeah, it's a difficult genre to get into for sure. But once you have like a steady group of people that like to play that particular RTS game, they really stick to it as well. So it has its pros and cons. But I like RTS games, so I made an RTS game.
Can you tell?
High five on that.
Yeah.
I respect you as well because of you following your passion. For the viewers who don't know what Stellar Warfare is about, how would you sum up the Stellar Warfare experience?
Well, basically, I wanted it to be like Red Alert, but in space. Like a classical RTS experience. You build a bunch of structures, you build army units, you send them towards the enemy. That's the gist of it, basically. And I wanted to keep it accessible in general. So you start off with a bunch of units that are really mixed in their loadouts, and they're generic purpose units. But once you get more into the game, you can learn about the different weapon types, the different ship types, and their armor, and basically customize your fleet around it. learn about what's the most efficient way of improving your economy, getting a steady income. There's a lot of depth that can be discovered by learning more about the game.
Mhm.
So yeah, I forgot what the question was.
No, I was really just we kind of did sum up it really well, what the game is about, and then saying that it's red alert in space is like music to my ears because I love the space genre, love red alert, combining the two, and I think RTS genre has faded almost into near obscurity unless you kind of seek it out.
Yeah, and there's a lot of indie developers right now that are actually creating RTS games. I know
Yeah.
there is a Mars RTS game. There's like a creature type RTS game. Um, so yeah, hopefully it will get somewhat of a comeback, but you never know. There's been a lot of big 4X type RTS games, Total War series, Stellaris, games like that. Personally, I know the depth is really interesting to a lot of people, but campaigns take so long to complete. It's like, I don't know, 15 hours, 20 hours, multiple days even. I don't know.
Yeah.
So for me, I also wanted to make something that's more accessible, but also with depth that people can get. Yeah, it's easier to get into, but it doesn't take up a whole lot of time. So yeah, not that it saved me any time because I've been working on it for I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of hours, but yeah.
It's crazy that you built this on your own because it was very impressive looking. Someone in chat, Xbox in my veins has asked, will there be multiplayer and will it come to Xbox?
For Stellar Warfare,
Yeah.
yeah, the multiplayer is already in. The multiplayer works. It might come to Xbox, but RTS games in general are not that suited to consoles.
Yeah.
But the main goal for now is to get it running on basically have like a successful Steam release, have it run well, get like a good community around it, and basically focus on PC first. Then maybe export for Mac and Linux as well, and then after that consoles if there's enough interest in the game, basically.
Hopefully. Dodge Knight, thank you so much for the £5 super chat. He goes, happy tier 4 Saturday. London just entered tier 4 of lockdown if things couldn't get any worse in 2020. Like he's listening stuck in loads of traffic because someone has poor timekeeping skills. I don't know who he's talking about. Great panel. He says, thank you so much for the £5 super chat. Thomas, if I what you mentioned Red Alert in space. What inspired you to create Stellar Warfare? It's all one thing. Like, where did you draw your inspirations from? Was it Red Alert? What made you say, "I want to
Um,
make this game"?
it was Red Alert sort of, but also Homeworld. I really loved to play Homeworld, but it didn't have a lot of depth in terms of ship customization, and I do like RPG type elements. Uh, like being able to add certain weapons or certain stats modifiers. I love stacking up, stats like increasing health or firepower or range or those type of things. And I love that people can get like freedom in that area to, basically design their ships and their fleet their own way. They can go for a really slow but tanky fleet. They could go for a light but long range harassment fleet. They can get certain units with weaponry that's only good against buildings, for instance. So that gives a lot of diversity to the player, and it opens up a lot of room for tactics.
Is that what you say distinguishes Stellar Warfare from other RTSs?
I think so. Yeah, a lot of RTS games don't really have depth for units that much. Units are just they're always the same. It's either a light tank or a medium tank or a heavy tank, and they always have the same weaponry. And here, each unit is customized based on your own taste, tactics, and ideas. So that's a pretty big difference, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What would you say? What is your biggest fear with Stellar Warfare? What's the thing that keeps you
That's
up
a
at
good
night?
question. Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm a bit afraid of the what the reviews are going to be like on Steam. I mean, In this genre in particular, a lot of people have their own ideas of how games should be, especially sci-fi fans. Some are only interested in like super realistic sci-fi, and they'll still try the game maybe, but then might not like it because it's not super realistic. I mean, I add a lot of visual effects and things that basically look cool but don't make a lot of sense, like guns that aren't necessarily super accurate but have high amount of projectiles, so that you have a lot of explosions going on in space, and it's not very efficient, but it looks cool, you know. So but those and a bunch of other things like bad performance, that's another one, like low FPS. I really want to prevent that as well, so I try to avoid that. Luckily I don't have the best computer, so I already have to take it into consideration while making the game, so that's a big plus for the fans, not so much for me. But yeah,
I mean, it looks really good though, and it looks quite busy as well, and particularly when the battles go in on each other. That's really nice. It's and it's quite reassuring that you're saying your PC isn't all that capable. I mean, we all have a chance of playing it quite well.
yeah. Yeah, it would be nice if it ran well for the average player. And one of the things that I like most is we have a Discord, and people sometimes live stream their games. And every time I join one of the games just to look at the stream, there's always combat going on. So at least it's dynamic, you know. There's lots of explosions, and whenever I tune in, there's always something going on. So that's nice.
That's good. That's good. Tomas, what would you? Well, your game is out, so maybe you have conquered all your fears. But are there still things that keep you up at night with your game?
No, yeah. Well, let's say I did. Well, user reviews can keep you up pretty much, because you know they pay for your game, so there's an enormous responsibility to fix. And if someone points something out, I'll be on it the same night until it's fixed. And I have to go through a publisher and do QA test before I can update. But now that it's gone live, it's a lot easier actually, because you can go on Discord, people are testing stuff, and come back, and you can, you know, I've got a separate branch on Steam for people on Discord who are testing, and then, you know, you just fiddle around. I updated it, updated that. I enjoyed that the most. And before I couldn't do that because it was an Xbox launch title, it was all secret and stuff. And you could tell that the game's now getting better, rapidly balancing, because there's, you know, a community helping out and giving feedback. No, I think, like I said, the first 30 days are hell, because it's exactly that. You know, something's going to go wrong. In my case, I got COVID 2 weeks before launch.
Oh wow!
2 days before the fucking press build went out, and I got sick. I was out of it for a week at least. Just, you know.
Was it quite bad for you?
It was quite bad. Yeah, I think I'd been up and down. Said, I think I've got it. I had it earlier this year. Yeah, I think I had that, and then I got it. Shit, this is nothing like any sickness I've ever had before.
Oh wow!
Fuck. If anybody goes, yeah, I think I've had it, I go, you haven't.
Really? Because that's what I always say. I think I had it in Jan.
I thought I am exactly like that. But it was a fuck, man. At some point, you couldn't walk. You just go. And we've got 3 kids, so we both had it. It's like, and then
I mean, you probably had it the worst, I guess, because they're younger.
I had it the worst because I'm fat. No, we both had it pretty bad, and the kids, they didn't suffer that much. So they just had a day of flu. We were out of it for 5-6 days, and then we started feeling. But the problem is, I was working on a build, and then 3 days, because that's what you do, 3 days before the press build goes out, and it's 3 weeks before launch. Look, there's an error in the AI. Let me fix it. Suddenly the AI was on point, and we'd spent a month fixing up balancing the AI when it wasn't on point, when it was just aiming badly all the time, not getting on your 6. So by the time the build hit all the press, it was hella difficult. It was like, you know, there's reviews, people still giving it an 8 or a 7, saying, yeah, but the difficulty spikes. I said, oh, that was pretty. That's still, because reviewers will review it and then put it in it'll go in a tray, for a virtual tray, for a couple of weeks until there's space on the website. So the reviews a month later are still based off that review code.
Oh.
You know, whereas before the game went live, I'd already fixed it. We'd seen it. We said, "Oh shit, man, it's fuck the AI." So we so that was, I think that was the worst bit of hell, is that you created your own fuck up, came back to bite you, and I felt so guilty for that. I spent 3 weeks doing an update every week. So that's an Xbox and a PC update every night, reading every fucking review, every preview, every user comment, where it said, "Oh, it was different." And I emailed journalists saying, "So where did you think you talked about one mission? But which one was it? Oh, it was that mission. Okay, thank you so much." And then fixing it. And so I can honestly say the game is like, it's loads better now, much more. It might be even too easy, but fuck that. You got a hardcore setting, so
Yeah.
I think that was all in all. Even then, people like the game. It's doing pretty well. You know, it's not fucking Hades, but it's certainly been reviewed well, received well, and people that like that type of game like it a lot, which is the best compliment. You know, you can't reach everybody, but if people go, "Wow, I loved Crimson Skies, and this is just like it," that is fantastic. And I get those comments. So yeah, at some point you're past it, and then you can breathe again, and then you sort of get a little bit bulletproof, where you know, yes, because anybody ever said, you've already heard it 1,000 times. Yes, it's too difficult fixing it. Update coming next week, or yes, I know, yes. And so yeah, and you make mistakes, just you know, you know your mistakes. So my main mistake, besides that little fuck up with the COVID, was I made the game chronologically. So chapter 1 first, then chapter 2, chapter 3, because I didn't know what the story was going to be.
Yeah.
It's the last chapter of the game, so the final 8 or 9 missions are the best. There is no fluff. There's no bullshit. They are all action. They are diverse. There's experimenting. There's stealth. They're lovely. And then the first missions are actually quite boring, because you don't know what you can do, and the systems you've developed a year later are much more advanced. So you can do different things. Do you have time to go back and put all that new knowledge and tech into the first mission? No, you don't have time for that. So the first 2 chapters of the game are slow. I'd say too slow. I might go back one day, but I can't story-wise just chuck out completely voiced bits of. But they should lose about 25% of their content, because it's just too slow to get you going in the story. And it's. I think but I couldn't, I could not have done that. If I'd not done that, the game wouldn't be done.
Yeah, they wouldn't be exist because you've done the other bit.
Yeah, so in the future I might do the last mission first and then do the first mission last, so that the first mission is the most epic. And we did sort of that with the thing, but yeah, there's always something that goes wrong, and there's always some things, especially by yourself, there are limitations. But I find, what Thomas said, I find Steam reviews, even though there's people complaining about it, on the whole, they are really realistic. So for the Falconeer, they're at 70% recommended. And I hope when the patch comes out, it crawls towards 80. And I think that's fair, because that's what everybody, for a lot of people think it's going to be like God of War on the back of an eagle. And it's not that. And they get very disappointed. And another thing is, I spent 4 years making it for Xbox, for console, or for flight stick. And when it went time to convert it to mouse keyboard, there were entire mechanics I couldn't translate. I did, but some people get RSI, and there is a mouse and keyboard. There's 4 ways to control mouse, to set up mouse and keyboard fully rebindable. But I said none of them go beyond a 6 out of 10. So we, and that's another thing.
Like the PC reviews? For the PC players?
Well, mouse keyboard players, they are I think the most of the people that don't, is because they tried with mouse keyboard and they didn't like the controls, because it wasn't balanced for that. In the end, I spent months fixing it and talking to them, and weeks just fixing it up so that it's bearable. It's some people really like it, but it's not balanced for that. I had to make it like nearly a twin stick shooter, with the gun is detached from the bird, so it's no longer a dogfighter. So all the balancing is off, and all the rolling, which works, going like this, doesn't work anymore, because you have to scroll to the edge and then press the roll button. It's so yeah, we put the biggest, a week after, we put the biggest banner on guys, this
Make-
game was from the ground up for gamepad. And mouse is there if you've got RSI or if you need accessibility and your keyboard is your now people have keyboards, then it's there. But for fuck's sake, use a gamepad or flight. It's a flight game.
I'd say you're probably your harshest critic on those opening missions, because I think for people going into the game, you say those missions are slower and things, but I think that's carried by the art style is very striking. So when you say that most people like to explore, I don't think those opening missions are the issue that you think they are, because it is.
No,
Just wow.
There's someone who was a professional game critic who I did an interview with a while. He said, I love that. I played the first 2 chapters and thought, wow, this is what's going to be. Just sort of Wing Commander-ish, another patrol, and then suddenly, boom, there's, weapons of mass destructions and shit goes all the way. He said that the fact that it took so long and then there's this change in the game, or there's, these set pieces that flip it around, and he loved it for it. So it's in the end, what came out, I couldn't do it again. I can't make this game. Probably I won't ever make something as crazy as this ever again. It's so easy. So it is what it is.
Yeah. No, it's a shame that you may then. Well, it's not like you purposely intended it, because this is the part that you needed to do to build the game. But you may lose some gamers at the beginning, because the end would have really got them going. Maybe they wanted more action.
Well, in the end, what we did is, to be honest, initially, it's an open world game. I wanted, and I was torn because I could go back to Gothic, if you remember that, which had different factions, and you'd go back and forth between the factions in the open world, and suddenly you work for them, and then you'd work for them. I always thought that was so ridiculous, but in the end, I knew that was sort of what it's gonna be, and then at some point I said, "Nah, I can't pull that off." But it would have been better as a game if you'd been able to fly to drift locations and pick up the entire story from a location, swap, do that, accept that is there. But in the end, I changed and said, well, you can play every chapter, and the story is sort of designed that you can do it out of order. So you can just do that. And people found that really weird. And it is a little bit weird.
Critics said that. There's some critics said that, oh, that's weird. They didn't know, because in the later chapters, which you can access from the start, you have access to the better Falcons over the better classes, and then
you can get better birds at the start if you grind your ass off. Everything is except, but you get some better stuff, and you get better side missions. So halfway through in chapter 3 and 4, the world is sort of at war. So suddenly there you can go out and capture fortresses for your faction. It's not strategy, but you can attack a fortress, and if you defeat it and you come back later, it's turned over to your faction. So you can change the world a little bit. And that's not possible in chapter 1, whereas many people just start at chapter 1 and then expect that to be the entire game. So I think that's, but then the other sense is, for players, they like exactly as most players just play it differently. They say, well, I figured that out, and I did that at the start, or I did it at the end. And some people say, I've spent 14 hours exploring and grinding before I even started the story, so I was all buffed up. I thought that's great, if that's how you want to play.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are appreciating how honest you are. Clayton from Cog Connected says, I'm going to buy the game immediately after this show. So
I just want to play on gamepad.
and play on gamepad. Please do gamepad. I think it's the first thing you mentioned to me, Tomas, is to play it on gamepad, which I was always going to anyway, because I have played Crimson Skies. I kind of knew what to expect. A question for both of you. Did you find that you had enough support as lone developers from the development community working on the game? It's a daunting endeavor to go into it alone anyway. I cannot imagine the pressures and stresses involved, but I don't understand your mindset. Both of you are kind of crazy, because you're like,
I just dropped an Xbox code. I'm sorry, I don't know why I did it.
But... Oh, you did it, nice. Guys in chat, there's an Xbox code that's been dropped by Tomas. Whoever claims it, let us know who has done that.
I saw it's my ADD talking. I just go, oh yeah, let's drop a code. Sorry, I should have asked you.
That's sweet. No, you don't have to ask. It's all good. In fact, you gave me a couple of codes. I might actually drop them as well. So yeah, I will drop a code that Tomas has provided me for the Xbox. I think as well later on in the stream. So make sure don't go away anywhere. But going back to the question, like it is pretty crazy. Like this is off your back. You don't have an income stream for a good long number of years, and you're banking on. I mean, Thomas, this must be interesting for you to hear what Tomas is saying, because he's done that experience and all the negatives that come out of it. Because your journey has almost begun, because you're going to be entering into that stage hopefully very soon, hopefully with positive things. But did you I'm not a dev. I don't understand how you go into it. To me, it sounds mental. But like you've gone ahead and you've done this. Did you get support from the development community? How did you go about doing it?
Well, yeah, there's not one specific development community in general. I think there's a bunch of Discord groups, there's a bunch of Facebook groups, and whenever you need help, it depends on where you ask it, but there have been some people who've been really helpful. Actually, 2 weeks ago, someone actually joined the project, so I'm no longer doing it completely alone. I have now have a programmer that's actually helping me as well. But in general, people are fairly helpful, although you also get like a lot of, well, not necessarily for the questions I have asked in those communities, because I usually Google stuff myself. But when people ask questions in those type of communities, a lot of the answers are, yeah, just Google it. So people do actually help you if you just have to ask the right questions, and it depends, but in general they're fairly helpful, and they're also more appreciative of the amount of work that have gone into the project. Not all of them, of course. Some people are also like, yeah, that's easy, you could have done that in a week, and yeah, okay, man. Yeah, it's it differs.
You get dickheads everywhere. That's normal. You're gonna get them. But I mean, the mindset to do that, it's I don't know how you sustain that. Do you get like your family members say, "What the fuck? That's mad. You're gonna be doing this for a while with no end?"
Yeah, like they weren't very supportive in the beginning. They're more supportive now, but in the beginning, I told them like, yeah, I'm gonna work on this game, and they were like, ah, okay, well, another hobby project, sure, man, enjoy. And they didn't care all that much about the project, and they were worried about my income and stuff like that. But as it got more serious, and I got into talks with publishers, and I got into some, I got some articles written and some good publicity and a lot of positive feedback from people who were interested in the game. They turned around a little bit. They're still like, okay, I'm not sure exactly where this is gonna end, but the support has become bigger in that regard. But mostly, a lot of developers have like 20, 30 half-finished projects. They have a new idea. They start to work on that idea. They get like some of the basic controls going and some stuff that they can play around with. And then they're sort of satisfied at that point. And they're like, yeah, okay, this was this idea I had. Cool. And then they find another idea, start working on that, and leave that other project on the shelf for forever, indefinitely. I had some games that were, not finished, like some abandoned projects as well. And I was like, yeah, this project I'm just gonna finish. I'm gonna no matter what happens, I'm just gonna finish it completely from A to Z. Gonna make it look good. And I mean, you're never done with a project. You can keep working on it indefinitely, sort of, if you had the funds and the means, basically. But yeah, I just want to be satisfied, and I have certain goals that if I achieve those goals, then I'm satisfied with it. And there has been a lot of ups and downs in the development process, like when you're stuck on a certain bug for like 3 weeks or something, and you have to do everything yourself. They're like, yeah, this is not fun at all. But then you have to push through,
Yeah, it was interesting. This is a question that Asa actually proposed on scope creep. You mentioned that you both of you were nodding your heads. I think Tomas was nodding his head because you've got ideas, but then you shelve those ideas because they never see the light of day. Asa wanted me to ask this question about how you control the scope creep and like you build a project, you're like you want to do more stuff, and then you're like, no, I need to get the game finished. But
Yeah.
then that you have to ask some pretty hard questions there. Tomas, were there things in the Falconeer that you wanted to have but you never managed, that it doesn't have in the game now, that you really wanted?
Yeah, definitely. I would like to have more because sort of a stretch. So you have the fortress that change hands. That's simpler than I'd like to. I would have liked to that missions were generated, which I will fly out to that fort, meet a friendly force, and you can attack that town, and then the town gets taken, and that spawns new missions to defend it, which was way too ambitious. But other things I would have, I had made half of it sort of deep sea creatures and wreck diving content. It's in the opening credits or in a title sequence. There's this little diving bell goes down, and it's never ever. Well, that was intended for like an interactive cutscene, and that is actually there was a conceptual hole because in side mission variation to have some sort of wreck diving missions. And I did that last couple of weeks, and it's coming out next Tuesday on PC and hopefully around the same time on Xbox.
Check it
So
out.
that's lovely. Nowadays, you can just add it in at the end. No review is going to see it, but fuck, it's going to be there, and it's going to, that completes the game. But with regard to feature creep, let me be honest. I made it by myself so that I there's no fucking manager telling me not to do that or to do it. So I spend most of that time just doing whatever the fuck I want.
That's the benefit of it all, isn't it? That you are your own boss.
Yeah, and what you can see by the game where in the Falconeer, it's the little sailing boats, because I love sailing boats, like schooners and clippers and all that shit. All the sails they tack properly with a universal wind direction, so when they go up, the sails goes up, and then they tack, and the little foresails are right, which is a little bit of technical fucking art that nobody notices. Nobody's written about, nobody's seen it, but I so enjoyed making that. Because I fly next, and then I have to escort a ship with cannons, and then you see the little turrets rotating, and you see the sails fleck. That's what motivates me. I have to do a system for 3 months, or fix this fucking bug that's not working, or optimize this shit that's not running at 60 FPS. And then you spend a couple hours a day looking at your nice boat or making it go a light on fire or whatever. So. I think doing something by yourself, you have to have that sense of freedom, and you grab it, and then your professionalism and your skill will slowly, at some point, you'll see, because we all want the game to be finished. You just don't want someone with a whip going, now finish it, now finish it. No game's ever gone better by someone going, now finish it, needs to be finished then and there. We all should be so lucky to have that natural workflow. Trust me, nobody working for CD Projekt Red wanted to fuck that off.
I was going to ask you about that. What are your view on that? Do you blame the management, not the devs?
I would no. I look at the game. I was excited for it. They'll fix it. They have some of the best writers, some of the best concept artists. It looks fucking smashing. I saw what's wrong with it. Yeah. I think it was just not finished yet. So that's a very, and I'll pick it up when it's, gets its first bug fixes, and I'll enjoy it like I did The Witcher, and they'll make a lot of cash. They'll redeem themselves. But, I think what people don't forget is, what I had with COVID, that I fucked up my own launch. They had that with, I don't know how many people worked that, including 1,000 plus people.
Yeah.
There were people getting sick. They all had to work from home. I think people, nobody's mentioned it, but I think COVID destroyed their deadlines. And if you're they are, how do you call it, a publicly traded company that needed to release on time, and this is what I imagine this happened, that all their effort was focused. It needs to be done in 2020, otherwise, and then you borrow money to do it because it's such a humongous, and it needs to be paid off. And at some point, there's someone from the bank saying you got to release the game, otherwise, you're going into default, and then there'll be no game. So I think very likely is there was no other way out. They had to do it. They did the best thing they can, but COVID and wrecked them and wrecked their game. I think they were. If some company in the world was capable of fixing it on time, it would have been fine.
Yeah.
And it would have been a buggy mess anyway, because that's how AAA games are released nowadays. But it wouldn't have been what it is now. So I hope people can cut them some slack and see the artistry that's there, and I hope they redeem themselves. And if they don't, and I honestly, I'm not going to defend some of the bad marketing stuff that's been done and where they've not hidden or shut. That is bad stuff. But on the whole, why would I have no bad take on it? It's just a shame. I think people are, we can all be really angry and people piss on something of it. We're just disappointed. That's my parents said. We're just disappointed. We're sad we don't have the game we wanted to play. So that's a better energy than trying to smash their heads in.
Definitely. But it's quite refreshing that you point out there are real-time pressures. The management aren't just these evil suits, because you'll have the bank knocking on your door, but also the devs didn't want it to be released that way. The game will eventually work well. The Witcher 3 proves that. The PC version is obviously a lot better, and just time, give it time. So that's the sensible thing, isn't it? Give it time.
Give it time, and that I like how someone said maybe they'll do a No Man's Sky. Those guys turned around.
Yeah, No Man's Sky
for them. They got a lot of shit in their face. Fuck. They still, they still manned up and did it. So that's I have to do it. Want to improve my Metacritic? Fix the game. Yeah, that's that simple. Want to improve your Steam recommendations? Fix the game. So it's you go out and do it. And I think that will get you a lot of, if you do it nicely. And that's the nice thing about being by yourself. You can actually talk to people and be honest and not give a fuck. And if someone does it live, you go, yeah, I can understand you saying that. And they'll usually that leads to a more interesting situation, because it's a human level of contact than these giant corporations, which is just weird, really.
Yeah, no, it is. It is, and I do sympathize. I do sympathize with them. Thomas, you well, COVID-19. I think Stellar Warfare is due to launch soon. Has COVID-19 messed shit up for you?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Don't say like that.
But like the game is due to launch. We don't have an exact date yet. I've been talking to a publisher, and there's like a certain amount of wishlist editions that we want to have before releasing the game, because otherwise, especially in a genre that's so niche as RTS games, there's a real chance of it getting buried underneath like the other games available in the store. So you need to have like a pretty big amount of wishlist editions before you actually release the game on Steam, or at least that would be ideal. So I'm trying to get that number to, I'm never going to reach the goal that I want to reach. I want to reach 50,000, and that's definitely steep. But half of that should be doable. So I want to at least reach that, and based on that, just take it from there. And that leaves like 6 months to implement more features. The core gameplay is done in general. I just want to tweak weapons. I want stuff to look nicer. I want to add some cool buildings, some shield buildings, some extra functionality. So basically what I did in terms of feature creep is I just made a list of what should be in the minimal viable product. And I focused on that first and put all the other rest in like an idea to-do list. And at this point, it's like, I don't know, 150 ideas long. And it's also ideas from people like, we really want carriers in the game, or we really want shields in the game. And some of those elements take up a lot of time. Like another much requested thing is modding, like mod support. That's so much work if you didn't take that into consideration at first, because everything that gets added to the game, like all people's own files and own stuff that they upload to the game to get that to work, none of it can be game breaking. And to do that, you have to build in a lot of checks, a lot of security, so basically that's 100 to 500 extra hours of work, more or less. So I'm not gonna add that. that's on the to-do list for after
MVP.
minimum viable product and some extra cool stuff that is actually reachable is released, and then yeah.
Damn. Do you want to commit to a fixed deadline because it may help you, or are you gonna just
A little bit.
hype the game up? Surely, if you have, hey everyone, it's coming out, and this is why a lot of people guys do it, because they can then have a concerted marketing effort to build up the hype. But then there's a problem that you might not release it at that.
Yeah, I actually wanted to release the game a lot sooner, but I just wasn't satisfied at that point with the game, and I've been working on fixing bugs and increasing performance for like 2-3 months. So the initial deadline I set for myself just wouldn't be reached. And then I could release it at that point, but that wasn't gonna do anyone any good. So eventually I talked to a publisher and gathered some information here and there. So now the plan is to just release in half a year. And I also don't want to postpone it indefinitely. At some point you have to be satisfied with what you have at the moment, and you can always add more stuff in patches and DLCs and whatnot. So I think it's good to have like a date to adhere to at least somewhat, because then you have more focus, and then it's easier to look at okay, what still has to be done. If this is the amount of time that I actually have, what's the most important thing that has to be done right now? And then I just focus on that for a while. And in between, I'm still going to add stuff because, like Thomas said, with the sales, those things give you a lot of energy. There's something you're doing for you. It has nothing to do with the deadline. It's something that you just think, okay, it would be really cool to have this. It's not too much work. I'm just gonna implement it, and then you have it in the game, and you're just really satisfied that you created something with your creative thoughts and put it to life, and that just gives a lot of energy. So I think you have to mix those things up. You have to do stuff that's needed, like performance optimizations, and then do some stuff that you really enjoy doing, and then do some other stuff that you don't enjoy doing, and just keep going, I think.
Yeah, it'd be amazing for other people to enjoy your platform like GameOnDaily we've created. It's not a video game, but when people use it and they're impressed by it, that times 1 trillion based on what you guys are doing, because you guys are invoking so much enjoyment and in the world that you created. It's it's art. It's something else. I envy you guys, but do not envy your struggles to create that. But the reward is I'm sure is immense, especially when I can.
We'll see.
Yeah, let's see. And I pray for the best.
I'm very conservative in that regard.
Yeah,
I think in this industry, you're lucky if you can live off it. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
That's there is no. For some there is, but I think that's the minority. The very happy few that get actual rich money out of it.
Yeah, I've heard like there's 200 games released every week or something on Steam alone, like some insane amount. And there's so many indie developers, and there's so many games being released, and I think some of those hold a lot more potential than others. But in general, it's just very difficult to stand out, and I think you have to be creative in that aspect, and like a brawler type game. There's so many indie devs that do 2D pixel art type brawler games, but the issue is there are so many people doing it, and maybe 1 or 2 of those games, if they get successful and they get big, and then they'll do great. But it would just be them, and like the other 99% of the developers who make that type of game will probably be less successful. And so I think you have to find something like from a dying genre, or invent a new genre, or just cool features, or something completely else, or something to stand out. I think that's very important.
But then doesn't that show you the strength or an advantage? My view is indie developers take the risks that big studios don't. That's why you see some of the most diverse, beautiful-looking games come from indies because they take that risk.
Yeah.
And you're alluding to the need to be standing out from the crowd, which is another reason why you want to do that. So, and you have to give your hats off to that because not only are you lone devs contending with a market that is extremely saturated, but you're taking massive risks.
Yeah.
Why is Tomas laughing? I have no idea. Why
Someone said a Greek god on a modern time.
Greek god? Oh,
Like fat fucking Zeus.
Yeah, you look a bit like Zeus.
Thomas was
I'll take that on any day. Yeah, hell yeah.
Thanks for that, Clayton. No, you've made me lose track of where I was. Yeah. I was going to ask you, Tomas, what was your experience like working on the Xbox Series consoles? You mentioned, 4K,
Yeah.
120. Was it positive? Did that give you that surely made the Falconeer stand out more as a
Yeah, and well, big shout out to Microsoft, who are the most approachable. For what they do, they are really approachable and really indie oriented with ID at Xbox. And I've worked on both ways of the aisles. I've worked for Sony first party and stuff, so love those guys too. But Microsoft's really into this kind of stuff. So yeah, that's a huge opportunity because we were going.
Do you think they are really into it? That they really do believe in indies and they support it meaningfully?
You know what? It's very difficult for first contracts, and I can't, But let's say I think Microsoft is a very engineering-focused company, and people work themselves up from engineers, and they are. If you look at something like the Series X, Series S, not Series X, but Series S, it's a really well-engineered piece of kit. Very impressive. It might not be as sexy as a PS5, but goddamn, it's well engineered, and that makes that a lot of people there appreciate people who make stuff, developers, indies, and of course they'll give once Elder Scrolls 5, 6, whatever rolls around, or then the big new that'll always take center stage. That's just how the cookie crumbles.
Yeah.
But the way they organize their events every day, it shows that they have a big stable of indies, and the ones they like, they will promote, and that is consistent. And I think that if you say, well, do you really believe it? Well, you just look at their track record, it's there. So they are really consistent in their support of ID at Xbox. And for something like the Falconeer, which is a rinky-dinky little game made by one guy over guys on little birds, homaging an ancient fucking dead genre. It's their genre, as Crimson Skies was their baby as well. So I enjoy the hard. I do, and I also do the PC version, but a fixed hardware platform is really enjoyable once you got the hang of it. You know what the performance is going to be, and it's always the same. So in that sense, it's nice, and it's a nice bit of kit. And the Falconeer. Someone said, well, it runs on a potato, and that's a compliment. It runs. Yeah. It is a highly optimized, stylized game, and that's why some of the stuff I do with clouds and volumetrics and stuff, it'll draw down even the Series X on 4K. So it's running 1800p at 120 FPS or 4K 60. And then the 1800p also has a 4K interface. It's a little bit mixed, but basically it does that things because it is a highly optimized title and it is stylized. But you can have fun for days with that on a modern gen and add stuff. At some point, I went around for 2 days just adding little boats because people doing dynamic stuff. Buoyancy boats that can't be optimized very well because they're normally you load in like trees by the thousands because they're static, and they don't move around. You pull them from memory. But boats, they go like this, and they have little. But the Series X can handle a lot. So I just spent around putting every harbor. Let's put some more boats. Let's put some more boats. If you have a Series X or a high-end PC, there's boats everywhere in every harbor. If you don't, there's no boats. It's like that's a simple thing what you can do on the Series X. It's really fun to have all that performance just there.
There were some suggestion that the dev tools on the Xbox side aren't as mature as, say, the PlayStation 5. Did you experience that? Or have you heard that from other
Oh
devs?
yeah, I'm not allowed. That's people always. I can't, because I've also worked on the PS4 and Nintendo, and it said you can't comment on the contact tools. I had no problems of that sort,
Yeah.
But I use Unity, which is middleware itself, so you have to wait for them to do it. The fact that the game is there, it has wait. It has all the fancy little, 4K
Optimized.
HDR 120 FPS stuff on it. So yeah, that was there at launch. Well, the HDR came 4 days later due to a bug, but it's all there. It's fun.
Yeah. So you're generally it seems quite positive working with the Xbox.
Yeah, I'm really quite positive. I bought and paid for it.
That's really good to hear.
No, I enjoyed, that you're working at the. I enjoyed working with PlayStation just as much. I know people have this tribal thing, and I'd wish they realized that there's people, swapping around, working here and there. It's not
The
those.
industry isn't like that, isn't it? Everyone moves from different
Everyone's here. Yeah, so it's like this time. So it's and they're all friends, so it's that doesn't exist. So I got review bombed a little bit because it's how big is the game. But if you go into Metacritic, you can see the official rating, and it gives a user rating. It's only 10s and zeros. So there were Xbox fanboys in there as well, I think. Really. Why would you? And it's a shame. My previous credit was a PSVR fucking SEE Sony Interactive Entertainment of London published game.
Yeah.
That's but people get really upset about that. So
Yeah, that must really suck that you got 10s and zeros for a bunch of fanboys, and you're like, you want proper like
you want a proper rating. It's well, I like the 10s, but I'm pretty sure some of those were, that people diving into it. You want honest comments because I can't use, looking like a mobile game.
We're gonna do that.
Explain to you how fast your iPhone, $1,200 iPhone is in comparison to an Xbox Series X, and you'd be surprised. But that would be the wrong answer to most people. But for a guy that I spent 7 years making an RSL that doesn't use any textures, I was sort of prepared for not everybody to get everything or be into everything. So you shrug and go on. But it's a shame that these systems that exist to help people judge if a game is fun then gets abused and become, sort of useless because it's garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, no, that sucks, but that is a problem that afflicts everyone. Do you think people need to be in the industry? You need to have a thick skin because of the thick skin to tolerate all this shit all the time.
I have no thick skin, man. I spent 2 weeks leading up to the review, and Bart, I'm on a little blanket on my couch going.
Oh man.
I get it's like PC Gamer gave it a 78. Oh yes. Oh, this said I'm an asshole. No. It's 2 days crying. You need a thick skin, but you make creative stuff. Who has a thick skin like that? There were reviews going because it's always nice to bash a single dev, and then maybe for Tomas he'll figure that out. Because especially if you get some sort of traction, it's nice to pull someone down, and it makes for great cops. So some reviews be, that Tomas Sala, he can really talk nicely about his game. What an interesting figure. What a shame his game's shit. Which is perhaps the most rudest thing you can do. If you. So well, it's,
my attitude to that is, would you say something like that face to face with someone? Because it's easy to say.
No. And some reviews, they say, well, there is a there, I thought it was, but there's a trend to sort of have these rough and dirty sites where everybody's saying fuck you and this and that, which and then but it if in the end what you come back with is unmotivated, unargumented, stupid stuff like just clickbait, yeah, I don't know. It's to said what I said. A bad review takes 4 days to get out of your system. A good review is out in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Because that's your artistic insecurity, and
Yeah.
it's the same drive that makes you go on and makes cool stuff, that makes you vulnerable to that stuff. So no, you need a thick skin, but it's. The happiest thing wasn't that one developer said it's going to take you 30 days, and after a while you've had so much shit poured over you, you have so much praise, you have fans, you don't know where to look, and then it'll be done. You'll be a little bit Teflon and it'll slide off. So that was right. It took 30 days, and it wasn't even all the good stuff that happened. That was some of the most intense 30 days of my life.
Damn. That's a lot of stress. That's how I imagined it. But we respect you. Don't listen to the trolls. You know this now. You're seasoned. What's scary is Thomas is right next to you, and he's gonna have to go through this.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna quit right now.
No. You know what it is? It's a little bit of hurt for a lot of love, and especially if you, like you said, do something that stand out. Which, if you look at Stellar Warfare, that's not something just anybody can make. So that's you're gonna find some traction and audience. That's definitely gonna happen. Yeah, there'll be highs and lows, but yeah, that's it. There's no comforting words.
What would your word of advice be to Master Thomas? Because your journey is a little bit further ahead. Obviously, you've got the release game. What would your advice be to any budding indie working on a title that's about to be released, their first ever one?
I think what Thomas said, where you have the things he said about finding your audience and having something that's distinct. And knowing who you're making it for and not wanting to appeal to everybody is actually the strategy I took, and it's a strategy that paid off. We said, well, I'll take this genre which isn't hyper popular, not everybody's competing in it. I'll make sure it's next level, so it's not the next pixel 2D art game. It's different. I think that's a solid strategy. Is be original and be be
a risk taker almost.
Well, take that risk. Yeah, well, it's
not too much.
It's not entirely a risk. I mean, you can sort of guesstimate what a good idea would be, but it's you have to really sort of think about it. You have to just look at what you really enjoy, base it off of that, and then that other people also enjoy those type of things. And if you then take that as your base, then you already sort of know that there's an audience for it.
Yeah.
But then you just have to make sure that there's not a million other games that are doing the exact same thing. So there's some science behind it, but it's I think difficult to explain, and I haven't thought about it that much. But yeah, it's not completely guesswork. I'm convinced it's not completely guesswork. It's also, there's some clues you can take.
Concerted, well thought out, planned, not risks as such. You're right. Yeah, there is a strategy to it all. There's a algorithm.
And it can still fail, but you can optimize your chances somewhat.
Yeah, absolutely. Zoradan, thank you so much for the $20 super chat. It says, great show and great panel. Much love to you as well. And there's very generous super chat. Isla Marie Drummond, she goes, hey guys, I'm here. I just can't comment on YouTube for some reason. You've been muted by YouTube. I don't know what's happening with that. We're about to head out to a closing period. Wow, that's crazy fast. That's gone way too fast. But I guess, it has. I want to, because this is an opportunity for you gentlemen to also talk about your game. Before you do promote that, I want to ask Tomas, what is in store? Because your game is actually out. What is in store for the future of the Falconeer for all those who have bought it? Because there are people in chat who are loving the game already.
So next week we have the Kraken update, which is a first small-ish, smallish free content drop. It does overhaul the air combat so that there's more chasing, a little bit less that they're on your ass all the time. So you have more space to make decisions, tactics, and stuff, which is an enemy burst roll, which is fun. So that's got an overhaul, but there's exploration missions now, and there's wreck diving missions with sea monsters you can explore and treasure, and a nice sort of slightly different way to grind to content and get you up and running a little bit quicker. That's all early game content, actually. There is a plan for a lot of this, so there's a roadmap for quite a bit of content of all kinds and sorts. So I'll be spending quite a bit of time expanding on the game. So there's a lot I want to do, a lot of stories I still want to tell, improvements I want to make to the AI, pathfinders. I enjoy this time the most because anybody can go onto the Falconeers Discord and have a chat with me on the game, and we discuss new features, lore, or art, or whatever. So that is super enjoyable. So I'm having a lot more fun now that the stress is off, because I know where Thomas is going to be. The stress piles up, and then there's a release. You've done it. It's done, and that in itself is a ginormous achievement. It's done. It's finished. It's out there. And then, well, you can go back to having a lot of enjoyment. And then after that, who knows? First, I want to work up to something like a Masterworks edition, that you have a version of the game that is, whatever people were disliking, that just say, well, okay, you want more variety, here's variety. You want more weapons, here's more weapons. You want more stories, more story, more locations. And I think people mostly want new locations to explore. So, and that's mostly what I want to make. So that'll be fun. I am thinking about bat-like enemies or a rideable pterodactyl, but that is just hinting stuff. And then afterwards, I don't know, Falconeer 2 or something else. We'll see. I might even take a holiday for the first time in 5 years once we're out of lockdown.
Yeah, once you're out of lockdown, don't waste your holidays.
I've already got it. I'm immune for 3 months.
Yeah, it sounds horrible, actually. We're all waiting for the vaccine here.
Yeah, I hope so.
I hope it works. I'm praying it does. Thomas, tell us what's in store for Stellar Warfare.
That's a good question. For the next 6 months, what I'm mostly going to do is optimize. Add more features. I want to polish things more. I want to add some extra levels. I want to, basically add features. Okay, sorry. I was trying to look up a list. I have a list somewhere of what's actually going to be the roadmap, but I can't find it. But basically, I just want to make the game better, add more features, and make it so that I personally would choose to play my game over other games. That's what I want to focus on in the next 6 months, because working on your game and actually playing your game are two different things, I think. And it's nice to, in between development, you test out some features, and you add a new ship to the game, you try it out, and you do play your game a little bit, but that's completely different than actually playing your game, actually diving into all the content, exploring, and it's different from the perspective of the players who are going to play it in the end. So it's sort of less fun for yourself because you're aware of all the bugs and how everything works. But if I can make it up to a point where I would enjoy playing my own game as much as, let's say, Supreme Commander.
Oh wow.
Then I'd be very happy. So I'm trying to find things that I can do and I can add and to the game that will hopefully elevate it near that level. I mean, I'm not sure if it's even possible, but I'm going to try it, and things that will be added, like I added artillery buildings now. We might add carriers. I want certain new tactics to be available for players. There's a lot of things that I want to add to the game that I think will make it a lot more fun. So I'll be focusing on those type of things. Add some cool guns, cool effects. Yeah.
What would you? So this is your last, like, this is your chance to sell the game to people. I'd love to. I'm such a dick for doing this, but I'd love to know, how would you market it? This is it, because you're a one-man band. You have to market it. You have to make it sound snazzy. Boom, you're on the spot. Tell our viewers why they should play Stellar Warfare.
Oh yeah, I do super well under pressure. No, but like the thing is, it's a game that you can jump into really quickly, and a lot of RTS games don't have that, especially 4X type of games. But it does have a lot of 4X type of game depth. Like it has so many different weapon combinations, ship combinations, modules. You can fly around during your battles, and when you kill enemy ships, every now and then new blueprints drop. So you can collect those, and those will be new technologies that you can use in your ships in the future. So there's progression in that as well. And I know, like, the people who have backed me on Patreon, they already have access to the game, so they can already play the game, and they've really enjoyed unlocking all the new ships, all the new modules, all the new weapons. So yeah, I already know it's fun. I just
Bye-bye.
want to make it more fun.
Yeah, it does look great, because my friend who was just sitting here before the show started, it was like, "Oh mate, that looks like Red Alert in space. That's like the perfect game." And then you came on here and said the same thing, which is that's great. No, absolutely, and yeah, it looks, there's so much depth to it, which is the big thing about it. And you're so passionate about it, and I can see it on Discord every day. Like, your community is kind of really vested in that game, so it's only going to
Yeah.
do.
They're really passionate about their opinions and their ideas and the things that they would like to have added to the game. And some are realistic, some are not realistic. And I try to navigate that maze as well. But I try to keep the bottom line, like, yeah, it's my game. I want to do what I think is fun. And if that means that some people won't enjoy it in the end, then so be it. But I do want to make it as much of a success as I can possibly make it. So I don't know.
No, I wish you all the best. Honestly, you have a lot of passion for it. You've got a great community for it, and you did it on your own, and this is your dream. No one can do this. Everyone else, like us, are wusses. They end up working for other people. Well, not GameOnDaily. We're like you as well. We're indie devs in a way, not as talented. But yeah, no, thank you. And Thomas, your game is out. You're just because you look like a Greek god doesn't mean you don't have to sell your game.
Bad Greek god, yeah.
No.
I pitch the game. Giant birds, guns, dogfights, crimson skies. Go for it.
There you
Crazy
go.
art stuff. Sorry.
What else can you ask for? What more can you ask for? Wow, you've dropped another code. This is from you, Steam code. In fact,
Yeah, I actually had it open by accident, the file. So might as well copy paste. There's
yeah,
this thing in Steam where you can request a bunch of codes for your game. I requested it for streamers, and you can put in an amount and it will generate that amount. And for some reason I had this document open. I think because I was looking for the what we were talking about earlier, the roadmap.
Oh yeah.
I just had this open. So
Wow, brilliant. Thank you so much for that. And Clayton, congratulations for winning the code as well for the Falconeer. I hope you enjoy the game. You were going to buy it, but you just made Tomas 25 quid poorer.
I have a publisher, so that's.
No, absolutely. Everyone in chat, you've been lovely. Our viewers, and our guests, you've been great. I hope you've had a good time, both of you. Tomas,
Yep,
did you enjoy yourself on the show? And is there anything you want to tell our viewers?
Well, and I'll tell a secret about dev codes, that it's just a list in my Slack, and I sometimes copy the wrong one. So if it doesn't work, contact these guys, and I'll get you another one.
Yeah,
Nice.
we'll do. That's it. Give us more admin work. That's exactly what we need. No, it's only 2 codes. I'm sure we could. And in fact, they worked. They worked. Both. Yeah, both gents managed to get it. Well done. Thomas, I hope you enjoyed coming on here, and I'm really eager to see your journey as well. Where can people find you? Where can the viewers find you? I will place it in the description.
Yeah, there's 2 places that I always try to send people. One of them is the store page for people who want to wishlist it. It's just Stellar Warfare on Steam. You can just, put Stellar Warfare either in Google or in Steam, and you'll find it. The other one is the Patreon, which is patreon.com/tensegames, and that gives access to all the work in progress that I'm currently working on. Every week I have some new content, some new bug fixes, some new weapons, some new ships. I try to have updates on a weekly basis, basically, and they'll get access to that as well if they support me on there, because basically that's really important for me, because that's what pays my rent right now, and
Yeah.
makes the drain on my savings a little less severe.
Yeah, do check it out, guys. You've heard from both gentlemen. Do support the indie devs who have been remarkably candid about their experience in developing the games. It's been an absolute pleasure, gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming on. We are eternally grateful, and we will always be supporting you. Any closing remarks, Tomas Sala? This is the last I have to say on it.
No, enjoy the chat. I like the live stream. It's nice and lively. I'm going to take the Greek god home. Greek god.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you hit the like button, smash it out. Yes, Tony, I did struggle with that last sentence. Please subscribe. We've got a lot more content coming, and nothing but love from you all. Everyone and the viewers, say goodbye. Peace. Peace out, everyone.
In 2077, they voted my city the worst place to live in America.
You either burn alive in it, or you never existed at all. Looking for justice in Night City. I seek revenge.
Engine's been hit! I'm losing control!
Wake the fuck up, samurai. We have a city to burn.
Dex, what the fuck?
Game risk it be.
And you, who are you?
Fuck.
Do you mean to say there's an actual terrorist in my head, right now?
Do whatever it takes to stop him, defeat him, gut him.
Dex had a load to say about it. I hope he wasn't overselling.
You blowing up all over the news.
We are fucked, America. Is it gonna be dangerous?
Don't you worry, Samurai.
You're a dick, you know?
And you're a cunt. Maybe we'll fit together after all.